one can save you. Burn a cage, lurks and flow now, turn your page. Tempers been grown now, passion lines. Hold my senses, leaves me here. So defenseless, smoky curls. High to the ceiling, latex girls. Losing feelings, a house of cards. That I'm moving, pushed too far. A lost sight and feeling, I'm in a cage. Flex and flow down, turning page. Tempered but grown now, smoky curves. Hard to the ceiling, latex girl.
Greetings and welcome to the Saroth Image Experiment tonight. I varied up a little bit. I've been talking to this wonderful musical artist. Oh, got to turn myself down. Yeah, she's called Queen of the Static Opera. Fantastic musical artist. So that was a little snatch of her tune. I think there was a couple on. I think that one was called Latex Girls. So if anybody has got music that they would like played on the show, because it's always good to have new artists to try and promote them, get in touch on Twitter or my email, saroth222@gmail.com, and we'll play a little bit of music in the intro, or we could even do, it doesn't all have to be magic and esoteric stuff. We could do music chat sometimes. Oh, we've got some people already. We've got Davey, Jasmine, Oswald, Azra LB. Nice to see you here, Azra. I think it's the first time you've been in. Ethan. Yeah, I'll certainly have your awful music. I've actually been composing myself today on my little keyboard, a haunting a tune on the flute. So without too much further ado, I am going to say, like I used to say, I will never monetize this channel or do anything. But with the current job situation, I still haven't heard anything from my appeal. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news. But until then, I am going to start pasting my PayPal. It had to come. Just in case you want to donate like 50p. I don't do a lot of work, but something's got to keep me in Strongbow. So I think I'll invite Jacob Bacchus on. It's the Shem HaMephoresh Angels, and we might talk a little bit on other subjects too. I've never actually spoken to Jacob because our schedules never match, like 5 hours difference. It gets difficult sometimes. So give me, I'll put on a little bit more of that gal's music. Oh, and I'll just shut the apps. Spotify, it's on. Professional as ever. Right, I'll just put that on while we get a hold of Jacob. It's very good, right up my street. Excuse me, I'm in D. What's going on? Hey, Nine, haven't seen you for a long time. Hey, King Widow, Brandon. The gang's all here. Right, I am inviting Mr. Bacchus. I hope he's ready. G D. There he goes. Right, so how's everybody doing? I will be taking questions at the end, but I always notice that I miss lots of interesting comments. So if you really want me to read anything, put them in caps, and then if there's any questions at the end, put them in caps as well. It just means I don't miss quite as many things. Yeah, Black Tower. I think you're a friend of Ethan's. My subscribers have leapt. I had 333 today, which is, of course, the number of Chronozon, the Dweller of the Abyss. I see Jacob now. There he goes. I'll just put on my earphone so I can hear him. Welcome, Jacob.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
How's it going, man? Good to finally meet you.
Yeah, we've been talking for a while. Finally got a chance to actually talk instead of just typing on Twitter.
Yeah, talk. So yeah, tonight it's mainly going to be about the Shem Ham Farash angels. So what kind of work have you been? Have you actually been working with the angels themselves, or I mean, there's many different ways to approach this system, isn't it? Can you give us just a little background for anyone that hasn't heard of these strange entities?
Yeah, for sure. The angels of the Shem Hamfarash, not the easiest word to say, but they come about. Well, the Shem Hamfarash is in the Kabbalah is what's known as the 72-letter name of God, and the way they came up with that is I don't know if you guys have ever seen the triangle for the Tetragrammaton, the 4-letter name of God, where has Yod at the top and then at the bottom the Yod Hey Vav Hey, and it makes the triangle. It's like Yod Hey Vav Hey.
Yeah. I've actually got it in my thing for the channel. I think it's on this thing here. My table of working, if I can reach it without pulling my.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
That's where they got the 72 from, because if you add all that up through gematria, it adds up to 72. So they're like, okay, what do we do with this 72? And they figured out Exodus 14 lines
19, 20, and 21, is it?
Yeah, 19, 20, and 21. They have 72 letters apiece. So when they put one on top of the other, you end up with 72 rows of 3. And so each angel in the Shem Hamfarash is based on those, each column. So 3 letters apiece, plus they'll add the L or Ia at the end for the typical angel name. And but yeah, you can work with it directly as the 72-letter name of God. Like supposedly that's how Moses parted the Red Sea, was the 72-letter name of God. Pronouncing that is what parted the Red Sea.
That's right.
And So you can work with that directly too, which is supposed to be a lot more. And I study the Kabbalah, but I'm Hermetic. I'm not Jewish, really. So, but the Kabbalah really comes from like what they call Hebrew language these days, or the letters anyway. Actually, is Chaldean. It's not or originally Hebrew. It's Chaldean, and the Kabbalah is probably older than Judaism. So, but of course, we've had 1,500 years of Christianization of everything. So,
Yeah.
so where it actually, the actual roots of Kabbalah are lost in history, but I always approach it from a Hermetic viewpoint. So when they say God, to me, that's the all, the Hermetic concept of the all,
Yeah.
which is mind. The all is mind. So,
So
but yeah. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So do you approach it from like a ritual, ceremonial magic sort of? Is that how you come at these angels?
Yes. They all have their sigil associated with them, and then the way you work with these angels, there's Arzel and Raziel are the gatekeepers to talk to the 72, and so first you evoke them. First you evoke Arzel, who puts you in communication with Raziel, who then can connect you to whichever other angel you want to talk to.
Yeah, I was actually, while I was researching this, I came across a really interesting guy. He's a Jewish guy. What's his name again? Ian something Navarro. And he did a really fascinating series of videos on, the idea of more than he's obviously Jewish, so he uses them for like more of a meditation tool.
Yeah,
it'd be really interesting to see how you would. Are you actually contacting these spirits as like separate entities?
That's an interesting question because, like I said, I take it from a Hermetic perspective where the all is mind. So the way you connect to them is through the subconscious, because we're all aspects of the universal mind, and we're connected to it through our subconscious. So, and in some respects, they are a part of you, and you're talking to your higher self. But in another way, they also they're not just you, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, this is something that we seem to come up again and again, and everybody I talk to, it's like you've got your psychological model of magic, which you could say is the sort of, like Crowley's introduction to the lesser key, the Goetia, when he said the Goetia are just basically bits of our psychology, really, although I'm not sure he quite believed that. He was a bit of a prankster, was Crowley. And then you get guys who say, no, it's nothing to do with psychology. It's all, they're all completely independent beings that would exist whether or not there were humans around it. And I think the answer lies, it's half within us, because we have this we have part of the God spark in us, but also they exist outside of us as well. So it's like, it's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that really comes from the idea so if you're on either extreme in that, you're separating yourself from the rest of the universe and acting like you're not a part of it. And you're in it. You can't escape it. You're here whether you like it or not. You're an integral part of the universe, same as everything else. And so if they're major forces of the universe, they're also a major force in you.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that that guy was saying, I've written down his name somewhere, but of course I can never find it when I look for it. He said that, we often see ourselves as like victims of these cosmic forces, or were buffeted around by fate and fortune and possibly astrological influences. But it says in the Torah, apparently hidden in the Torah, that God, when God told the angels that he was going to create man, they weren't happy about this at all. So he was like, okay, angels, yeah, I'll let you boss them around, and if they ever get out of order, you can slap them. I think the word to use was spank them, which is an interesting turn of phrase. But he hid these instructions for contacting these Shem HaMephorash angels within the Torah. And he said that because, that at first he created like light and dark and the sea and all that. And the last things to be created were the most important things. So I think we were made last. So it means that we really have power over these angels. They really should be serving us, according to this certain mystics' idea of God. But they've kind of tricked us into believing that we've got to be subservient to them. So this Shem, I can't even say it. Shem HaMephorash system, we'll just call it Shem. This Shem system is like a cheat code, really.
Yeah, I could see that. I wouldn't say that. The way you said that, he said that they did the most important things last. Kind of agree with that, and kind of not. It's like when you're building a house. Technically, the most important things in a house is the roof and the walls, right? That's what makes it a house.
Yeah.
But in order for those to exist, first you have to level the ground, and you have to lay the foundation, and you have to put in the beams, or the others can't exist without it, or at least not for long. So it's not that one part is more important than another part, but yeah, like towards the end goal is definitely comes last, because the others had to be there for you to put the
very interesting way of looking at it. You need the foundations before anything can be built. So I've heard, I've never tried to contact the Shem, shall we say. So have you had like interpersonal dealings with these angelic creatures?
Yeah, like I've never summoned anything to like physical appearance.
No, I think that's very rare.
Yeah, and they're probably just messing with their own minds with that to a degree anyway. But I did spend a lot of time developing my mind's eye. So for one thing, there wouldn't even be any point in me summoning it to physical appearance. Why go through all that trouble? And I can communicate. And it's mostly with these, when I work with them, it's mostly I can definitely feel their presence. It's more of a feeling. You can feel them around. And when you're working with spirits or astral entities and things of this nature, that's really how you know that you contacted the right thing. Because like the astral plane is connected to our emotions. So whatever you're feeling is what they're, I don't want to say, well, in the case of more negative entities, they're feeding off of it. Although in the case of something like the Shem HaMephorash, they're more feeding it to you.
Yeah.
But you can definitely tell that what you're contacting by how it makes you feel, the feeling that it gives you.
Yeah. So are you doing it for like specific results? I think they do each have, they're ruled by the zodiac as well, isn't it? Each one sort of rules, is it 5 degrees of the zodiac?
I
had a big table here somewhere.
It would be, 5 degrees of the zodiac.
Yeah. It's like each one seems to have qualities Like the first one, Vihuya is strife, Sitael is victory, Maha, I can't say any of these words, they're too long. Prudence, gain, wealth, peace, sorrow, truce, disappointment, pleasure, debauchery, even. So, yeah. So, are you invoking angels that you feel like you need at that time? Like, oh, I feel like my confidence is low, so you'd pick an angel to, boost up your confidence, or what's your methodology in invoking these angels?
Yeah, when I first started working with them, it was like that, where I was like, okay, this angel does this. This is its office or whatever. So I'll contact this angel to try to make this happen. But as I started working with them more, these entities aren't something you want to take lightly, because their very presence has an incredible effect on your life. And anything that's not as it should be, they're definitely beneficent, but their presence can be very traumatic at first.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, when things aren't right, they will set about to fix it. And so, like, things can fall apart, and it can be very traumatic at first. Now, it's for the good in the long run, but in the short term, it can be quite traumatic.
Yeah, that was something I noticed when I started doing Golden Dawn magic, and that's I think a lot of people, the traditional magic seems to have taken over nowadays with the Stephen Skinner and the a lot of the old grimoires are being printed, and a lot of people are totally going over the grimoires and kind of dismissing the Golden Dawn and Thelema and the more sort of Victorian, you could say, psychological models.
Yeah.
But when I started the Golden Dawn work, it was like everything seemed to fall apart. You'd lose a partner, your job everything would change, but it's because you weren't in the right place. Because you can stray off your path in so many ways. It's almost like timelines. If you make one mistake and then you follow that mistake, and it seems to be reordered. So if you're in completely the wrong place, it will just take everything away and build you up from scratch. And I always think a great metaphor for that is the tarot card, the lightning struck tower.
That's
exactly
smashes
you down and builds you back up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because which is like the Tower of Babel, like you're challenging heaven. If you think of heaven as where you're supposed to be or what you're working towards, if it's challenging heaven, then you're getting away from where you should, what you should be doing. And so the lightning, it tears its destructive force, but it's beneficial. Yeah. Almost like the Hindu idea of Kali, where she's a very destructive force, but she's slaying demons, So.
Yeah. Would you say you're from? You say you're Hermetic. So do you do Golden Dawn magic?
Oh yeah, I did for quite a while actually. Towards the end of it, some of the syncretism with it I started noticing is doesn't quite fit.
Yeah. They did try to jam a lot of stuff together, and it's quite. I'm not sure if it all goes quite well, but I mean, it's up to us to refine these systems, isn't it?
It is, and I was really glad that I did the Golden Dawn system for quite a while, because it introduced me to all these things, and then the deeper I got into them, I'm like, okay, well maybe they don't exactly correlate as well as the Golden Dawn would say they do. All the parts are the same, but they're not put together the same kind of. That was something I really noticed with like pagan mythology and the pagan deities. Each system, the different deities would have all the same parts, but they would be put together differently.
Yeah.
Like like with Greek, you have Bacchus. I'll go with that because that's the one I know the best, obviously.
Yeah.
And, or Dionysus in the Greek, Roman Bacchus. In Egyptian, that would correlate to. See, in the Norse, it works really well because it obviously correlates to Balder. So I think I froze.
No, you're fine. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So he obviously correlates to Balder in the Norse. But if you look at the Egyptian, well, in some aspects he's like Osiris, in other aspects he's like Horus. If you compare the Norse to the Egyptian, Odin has aspects of Thoth and aspects of Osiris. He's almost Thoth and Osiris combined.
Yeah. Do you think that, you know, I was talking to Sam on the last show about this. He works a lot with like Voodoo and the Papa Legba and all that. Do you think that these spirits are just the same energies, but they're just being filtered through our own cultural sort of perceptions, or are they separate groups of spirits that work with one culture or another? You know, because they do seem interchangeable at times. That in other ways, like you say, they seem very different.
It's like they're the same building blocks, you know. Almost like they all had the same box of Legos, but they built different stuff out of it.
Yeah.
So that in a lot of ways they do correspond, and all the same parts are there because it really makes me think of one of my favorite quotes by Robert Anton Wilson, which is, "Don't confuse the map with the territory."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because these are all different maps of the same territory, basically.
Yeah. That was a William Burroughs favorite as well. I think he got it from Korzybski, was it? I think he was a linguist, wasn't he?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's very true. So let's get back to the Shem. Can you give us like some like spooky tales or something to entertain our guests? Just make it up. I'm only joking.
I don't have to make it up. Like when I first started working with these, and I was with this woman who I'm pretty sure is a psychopath, and well, we were living together and everything. We were engaged to be married, and I started working with these angels. She was supposedly hermetic, but I don't think she even knew what the word meant. But that's neither here nor there. But so when the first one that I started working with, and do the ritual, and that's a 11-day. You can do it every day for 11 days, and I would do the ritual. And like I said, I can really feel their presence, and it's a really amazing feeling because they're like incredibly powerful but calm, and it's like it's almost like where they have the sine wave and the cosine, so they cancel each other out, but at the same time, it's a whole lot that equals zero instead of nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'd be sitting there like basking in the presence of these angels after the ritual, and within a minute, every time she would come out, because she'd always go hide in the bedroom while I did it in the living room, and she would come out of the bedroom and just freaking out over nothing, trying to stir up as much whatever she could, as much negativity as she could, as soon as it was, and didn't take long. You know, I did the ritual for the 11 days. Within 4 or 5 weeks, we were not together anymore. That's for sure.
Thank you, Shem Angels.
Yeah. That's a good example of what I was talking about how it can be traumatic at first if things aren't right. It will break down what's not supposed to be there, so it can put you where you are supposed to be. But within 2 or 3 months, I met the woman that I'm married to now, and things have been quite wonderful.
Fantastic. So how long have you been working with the Shem?
It's been about 3 years now.
Wow. So is it like a constant dialogue? Do you have favorites? Do you think another thing that guy, and it really resonated with me. It felt like I was, I've listened to loads of podcasts like that, but I was listening, beautiful sunny day in the garden yesterday, and he said, "Oh, the reason you're actually here in this," I think he called it a shua or something, a class, is because God likes you. And I thought, oh yeah, so he does. God really does like me. So yeah, is it a personal relationship? I mean, they say angels are very they say like demons are more like personalities. Angels are more like packets of energy or quantum waves or something. I don't know. Do they have personalities, do you think?
Definitely less than other spirits I've worked with. I've never worked with goetic type spirits, demons or whatever. But I've worked with elementals and like the Olympic spirits quite a bit, the planetary spirits. So like the difference between like an elemental and then planetary spirits of the Olympic spirits, there's a big difference between them. And the angels are almost like a step beyond than the planetary spirits of the they have probably even less personality, I guess you'd say. Oh, and I have to qualify this when I'm talking about angels. I'm talking about like the Shem Hamfarash, those type of angels, not Enochian, because those are a completely different matter.
Yeah, we just got a question about Enochian, but I think we'll leave them for a little bit yet. We'll come back to the Enochian thing for the guys in the chat.
I see, I wasn't even looking at the chat too, so must have picked up on that one.
Yeah. So, what can you give me? Like, give me some more. How would you? What's your method of invoking the Shem? Do you have a full? Do you use protection of any kind, like a circle, a triangle of art, that kind of thing?
At first, I didn't, because right before that, I was working with the Olympic spirits a lot, and you don't need to protect yourself from them at all. And I was like, well, these are even less. You need to protect yourself from them, right? Which is true, but the brighter light casts a darker shadow.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I did start doing banishing rituals before and after, clearing the space, not to protect me from the angels. You don't need any protection from them, but from everything else rushing in to like try to repollute the air after you cleaned it, you know?
Yeah. A very well-known magician, a friend of mine, he's very almost not fanatical, but he just says you must protect, even he would say, even with the Olympic spirits, with any kind of spiritual spirit conjuration, because like you say, it's not the entities that you're aiming for, it's the other things that will rush into that space. And I, being a bit of a rookie with spirit work, I'm never sure what is coming in, to be honest. You know, I haven't developed that fine tuning to know if it's a good spirit, a bad spirit. You know, I used to be like a bit of a new age kind of guy. and I would channel, and I would just throw myself open, and God knows what was coming in. I don't think they did me any harm, but I think that was more luck than good judgment, you know.
Yeah, that's I always say it's similar to like using a Ouija board or something, where I always think it's like picking up the phone and dialing a random number,
Yeah.
and chances are they're not even going to answer the phone, whoever you called, because you don't know who you called. And if they do answer the phone, they're probably going to hang up pretty quickly. And if they do end up talking to you, probably not somebody you want to talk to.
Exactly. Anybody that's just going to talk to some random stranger, you probably don't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
So have you had any negative experiences? Like I know a few friends of mine have had like marked poltergeist activity after, and this was Arbitel spirits who, you know, the Olympic spirits are supposed to be very kind and gentle and beneficial, but it was a new agey kind of setup where they weren't using circles or adequate protection, and it got quite serious. So I think it gave them a scare.
That's interesting, because I've never heard anything about like that with the Olympic spirits. They've always now when I was doing before the Olympic spirits, I was doing some work with Anunnaki and stuff. There was a lot of weird stuff with that one, and you couldn't really call it positive or negative because they're so alien. Alien's not even the word. They're like so macroscopic that you don't think about what's good or bad for an ant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're like ants to them. So
yeah, human primates to you know, these vast cosmic intelligences. This guy, I wish I could remember his name, Ian something Navarro. He also said that angels are the spirits of planets, and I kind of got that through the Arbitel and planetary magic, but he put it in a slightly different way. And it was really interesting to think that, you know, literally they are the intelligences of these vast cosmic bodies, which we really don't understand very much.
yeah, well, with the Arbitel specifically, like you said, they're the planetary intelligence. I believe the thing with the Shemhamphorash and well, I'll get to that, but that they're having more to do with the fixed stars, and that's why each one has the 5 degrees of the zodiac there, and they're associated with the brightest star in that 5 degrees.
Yeah. Very interesting. Like the chain of being comes to mind.
Yeah,
it's a Renaissance concept. That
even makes sense too, because they're like I was kind of glad I did it the way, like when I started working with Enochian or doing the little bit of Enochian work I did, I knew I was getting way in over my head.
It's the only way to go.
Yeah. Well, that's why I started, because I worked with elementals before, theurgy a lot with the different pagan pantheons and stuff, and then I started getting into Enochian, and things got really weird really fast. Then I kind of backed up a little bit, and I was like, okay, let me do this in a more logical order. So that's when I started working, and then things started presenting themselves in a more of a correct order. Like that's when the planetary spirits from the Arbitel started popping up everywhere I looked, to where I was like, okay, I should start working with them for a while. And they're almost like, if you do them in order, they're like a stairway to heaven, kind of, you know.
Yeah,
So you start out from and you work your way up to Saturn, which is in the classical planets, Saturn was the sphere of Saturn was the sphere of the fixed stars. So it was the edge of the universe, basically.
Yeah.
And so then from there, it made sense that, and I didn't even realize when I started working with the Shimhamphorash that they were related to the fixed stars like that. But I found that out later, and it really made a lot of sense. Like, there's these books on the Shimhamphorash. Joseph Wolf wrote them.
Oh yeah, that is the guy. That guy Ian Navarro. I think it was him that's his teacher. Funnily enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because there's the illuminated circle. I think there's 4 of those. This is Joseph Wolf, and then Scott Rasbach worked with him on that. Yeah, and I believe Scott Rasbach was I think he's the guy from the Johannite Church.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Oh, the Johannites are really interesting. Like, the idea comes that they were basically followers of John the Baptist, who in those days was like bigger than Jesus as far as popularity goes. And then, so even Jesus was a Johannite, but so was Simon Magus. And story goes that they were competing as the successor for John the Baptist. Now, the Bible, the King James Version or the Catholic Bible, doesn't really go into, barely mentions John the Baptist, but a lot of the Gnostic texts go into it a lot more. And he was big. The Templars, that was one of their things. They're probably closely connected to the Johannites or Johannites. And a lot of the Gnostic heresies, they call them and stuff, or Johannite. Even the Freemasons, their patron saint was originally John the Baptist, basically declaring themselves to be Johannite. Then they later changed it to John the Apostle or John the Evangelist. But
yeah. So is that John of Patmos who had the visions of Revelation? Is that the same John?
That's a different John completely.
So many Johns.
Yeah.
So how do the Shem communicate to you? I mean, again, as a rookie, I have a hard time telling what's my own voice from the voices that I'm supposed to be receiving, or is it even a verbal communication?
For me, it's not a verbal communication at all. It's more, I know I did the working or whatever, so I'll be on the lookout for what's happening situationally in my life or in the greater world at large, and I see the effects. And even like when I first started working with the angels, I even asked for kind of specific stuff, and I was doing it more practically. Like, okay, I'll talk to this angel because he works for this, so I'll try to have this effect. But even still, it was more on a large macroscopic scale, you know. Let's try to help this information come out to the populace or something along that line. Mm-hmm. And I would notice the effects of it by far, quite a lot. Even that seemed like I was limiting them. And then that's when I started. That's when I found the books of Joseph. I forgot his last name, but I just said it.
Wolf.
Yeah, Joseph Wolf. That's when I found his books. That was talking about them in relations to their section of the zodiac and everything. So then I started taking it a more logical approach like that. And it really worked well for me because he starts the book with the Angels of Fire. And the first angel, which starts in Leo. And so it's the first 5 degrees of Leo. And my ascendant is in the first 5 degrees of Leo. So it was a natural starting point for me.
So is mine, funnily enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting. That was a natural starting point. So it worked out pretty good. Then since then, I've been trying to take them more logically, not necessarily in order, but so I started with the Leo because that was easy for me very comfortable for me. But then it doesn't do you a lot of good because,
you've already got those qualities, so they're the ones that you least need to invoke. Yeah,
exactly. So then I need a lot more earth. So I started going more towards the earth angels and stuff. And Capricorn especially is one of my difficult ones. So I really started working with that a lot more. And it seems to help.
Yeah. I like that idea that we can kind of compensate for weak points in our natal charts by working with these planetary, that's planetary magic, basically.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So what would be your methodology? Say someone in the chat just now wanted to start working with Hashem. What would be your advice to them as an absolute beginner?
As an absolute beginner, I would recommend the book, The 72 Angels of Magic by Damon Brand. And he has very easy to work rituals with everything you need on how to begin working with them. And it's a good start. You can take this way further than that, obviously, but it's a good introduction to these angels to get to start working with them where you understand what they are, how you should work with them, and that type of thing.
So what did it tell you? I'm trying to get an idea. Do you have like a home temple? Do you work in your living room? Do you use like dreams, like sigils under the pillow? Can you give us a couple of examples?
I do rituals. To me, the point of ritual is more for what happens internally. So I don't wear robes and have a specific temple space because I can do that. I used to do that and then kind of got to where I don't need to anymore. So, but of course you're welcome to do that if it helps get you in the right mind space. But I generally just do it in my bedroom. I don't have a dedicated temple space anymore. Don't really require one at this point. Maybe if I started working with Enochian again, I would dedicate a temple space again.
I'm going to go back to a question we got about Enochian, actually, if I can scroll back that far. Yeah. Black Tower asks, Jacob Bacchus, which particular version of the Enochian system did you work? John Dee's or the Golden Dawn?
That's a good question. And the one we were working was specifically straight from John Dee. Like we're working with copies of the Logath to create the tables and everything like that.
Oh, so you had the seal and then the 4 little seals under the table and all that?
Yeah.
Did you? And you'll notice I've got some. This is just for Golden Dawn grade work. That is the Practicus one. That's the water tablet that I'm going to be going on to. That's the Earth one there.
Yeah.
But the Golden Dawn, you know, I'm just leaving Theoricus into Practicus, and there really is no spirit work in the Outer Order.
No, there's not.
No.
Well, there is, but not consciously.
Yeah, yeah. In no great depth.
Like I always say that there's always a spiritual influence. You're attracting some form of spirit no matter what you're doing. So a lot better to be or you're making waves in the spiritual plane or in the ether, or however you want to look at it. There's
yeah. I mean, just by doing pentagram rituals and stuff, I think it kind of lights you up on the astral plane, and your life does start changing in very positive ways. When I started magic, I was like, I'd been a heroin addict for 25 years. I was jobless, you know, really going nowhere. And I think it was the magic that kind of kickstarted, you know, and in 5 or 6 years, I've completely changed my life. So it's never too late, guys.
That's true. And it'll do that. It'll have and you won't even notice it or realize it when it's happening that that's what's doing it until later. It's in hindsight. You look at it and you're like, oh, wow, that really did make a big difference in my life. Yeah. And that's one of the big importance of keeping the journal, the magical journal.
Yeah.
Because just because you don't think it's important right then doesn't mean later down the road you'll look back and like, wow, that was incredibly significant, but I had no clue at the time. So
yeah. I'm still, after all these years, I'm still very lazy with the journaling. I'm very lazy with everything, to be honest. I've kind of lapsed into armchair occultism. I find like if I have a break, you know, when I had a big experience with psilocybin last summer, and I hadn't done any ritual magic for, God, almost 3 years. As soon as I got the job, a full-time job, you know, very hectic, demanding job, and I just didn't have the energy at first, and then, you know, if you break it, it just stretches into days, and then weeks, and then months, and then I'm very skeptical, so I have to be active in magic to keep my focus, because it very quickly goes. So yeah, question from my dear friend Davey. Jacob Bacchus, have you got a particular method or system of summoning or working with the 72 angels of the Shem HaMephorash? So I think it's asking like for specifics on how you would,
Like I said, in the when I first started working with them, I was using the ritual as described in 72 Angels of Magic by Damon Brand. Now, since then, I've kind of adapted it to my own purposes and don't necessarily go as by the book as I used to. But generally, it has to do with, it has its first, you invoke Arzel and Raziel, open the gates to you, and then you know, since each angel has a particular passage in Exodus that it's part of it, I'll chant that a little bit while gazing at the sigil, and then it's more internal work. But physically, that's what I'm doing is I'll chant and gaze at the sigil and then kind of go into a trance. I'm like a meditation sort of, but I'm communing with the angel. You know?
And when you say sigil, do you mean the 3 Hebrew letters that make up the name?
Oh, there's a sigil associated with each one.
Ah, right. Yeah, I've never seen them.
So, and, So I'll gaze at the sigil.
Okay, another question from Davey. What is one's actual objective in attempting to talk to beings, be they real or not? So I guess they're saying why try talking to spirits in the first place?
Well, I guess with everybody who does it would have their own motives. When I started doing it, it was just kind of out of curiosity to see what would happen. And then
I actually think that's the absolute best answer there is. And a guy I know, English magician, Jake Stratton Kent, was like defending this because I think he's kind of got one foot in the traditional magic community who can be quite dogmatic, and another one in the sort of more looser chaos magic. And he was like, yeah, curiosity is absolutely a perfect reason to do magic. And it's certainly why I got into it. It wasn't like I felt a religious calling or I want to do magic to change the world or to have power over others. It was just, you know, curiosity. It's like why you first take a joint or listen to Led Zeppelin or something, you know? It's like, why do anything that's fun?
yeah, basically, like, because I started when I first started learning magic many years ago. Going on 25 years now. But then I got really into chaos magic. I found Libernal and Psychonaut. Before that, I played with some of the Llewellyn books and stuff, but nothing too. And then I found Libernal and Psychonaut, which actually just attracted my attention because it was called chaos magic. Yeah. But then I read it, and it jived a lot with some of the advanced quantum physics and stuff that I was into at the time.
Absolutely.
And, so then I started making sigils and stuff. When I saw that working, I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty interesting. And that's when I first started getting introduced to Golden Dawn style magic and stuff like that. And so it was, yeah, when I started doing it, it was just a curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Me too. There was a comic book shop. I mean, Aberdeen, Scotland is it's grown, but it was a tiny little, it seemed to be tiny when I was a teenager. And there was only one book in town where I could get these Llewellyn titles, as you say. And they had Robert Anton Wilson, Cosmic Trigger, Prometheus Rising, the Illuminatus trilogy. They had some Crowley. The Libernal and Psychonaut was like a total breakthrough book for me because it really broke things down. And I was interested in quantum physics as well. And they had that little equation, you know, you had to get your gnosis and it had to equal, you know, they put it in a very straightforward way. You know, reading Crowley, when I read Crowley, it was more like I was reading Burroughs and stuff at the same time. And he just seemed like a very artistic, poetic writer. I didn't understand a word that he was saying about magic or how to do it. You know, try learning magic from a Crowley book.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck there.
If you don't know what he's talking about, you'll never know what he's talking about just from reading him. And then if you know what he's talking about, what's the point of reading it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost comedy to me, the way he puts stuff.
He's quite a rascal, is Crowley.
Yeah.
I was actually listening to, I'm a YouTube fanatic, so I don't watch any TV. I just listen to YouTube. And it was actually Jason Louv, and it was supposed to be part of my research for this show. He was on the Leak Project, good old Rex Bear, dear Lord. But they were talking about Crowley, and I have the exact same reaction with Crowley. Sometimes I think, yeah, you know, he wasn't that bad, and he was clever, and he did contribute a lot to magic. And then I think, oh my God, no, he was a horrible sort of sociopath who abused everybody that came into his sight, and he was involved in some very dark stuff. And I often wonder with Crowley, just how dark did it get? You know, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
On
mean,
both hands, it seems like they're both so super overblown that the truth he couldn't have been nearly that dark, and he couldn't have been nearly that genius. And it's impossible to be both because one would cancel the other one out. Like,
yeah. I think Thelemites try and portray him as the sort of super knowledgeable prophet of the new aeon who was so above us mortals that he would have jokes at our expense and stuff. But I don't know. A lot of people say that it's a famous when he broke off the Abramelin ritual to go to Paris to fight on behalf of Mathers and the squabbles they were having with the Golden Dawn. That was his undoing. He's a very interesting person.
Undoing and the whole Golden Dawn's undoing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I notice it's a bit of a sidetrack here, but you have a lot to do with Tracy Twyman's work, don't you? You do like internet work for her or something?
Oh yeah. I've been helping her and the RX only team with some. I'm a software developer and general tech guy, so I help them with some of their technical stuff sometimes.
I've just recently discovered the RX. What is it? The RX picture show or something? Yeah, it's really interesting. I think Tracy Twyman is absolutely fascinating. I've followed her for many years. For Baphomet, when she was contacting Baphomet through a Ouija board.
Yeah, that's we've probably been following her about the same time when she was promoting the clock shavings.
Clock shavings, yeah, that's the one. And I love the way she pulls these. I mean, she's a genius, really. The way she pulls all these different strands. The last one I was watching was when she was talking about the Marquis de Sade's 140 Days of Sodom and how influential that was on the surrealists and the Dadaists, and how she thinks Man Ray might have even been involved with the Black Dahlia murders. And I'm not sure if she actually says, yeah, they were. I mean, it's very interesting to look at these things.
Yeah, she does that a lot where she doesn't say it definitively, but she'll pose the question because it's like, hey, it kind of looks like it's pointing that direction.
Yeah.
Which is because of that, there's no way to positively ever answer that question. Probably we'll never know who actually did. For a fact, who did the Black Dahlia murders is like we'll probably never know exactly. Even then, every couple of years you'll hear that they know exactly who Jack the Ripper was. But then they don't.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things. But it's crazy how like all these things that you thought were separate things that you never would have thought were connected. And then they connect, and you're like, oh wow.
Yeah. Have you ever read Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco?
Yes, I have. That actually came up recently in a conversation somewhere.
Yeah, it's a fantastic sort of conspiracy romp that pulls all these separate strands into this. It's a fantastic book. I'd recommend that to anyone. Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco. So,
Robert Wilson, like we were talking about too.
Yeah, like the Illuminatus trilogy and all that.
Trilogy.
Thinking about the dark side of Crowley, the Paris working that he did with Victor Neuberg. I remember at one stage they discussed how the perfect magic ritual would be to sacrifice a woman, draw planetary sigils on the corresponding parts of her body, and like cut her up, basically. So that is dark. So anyone that says that Crowley isn't
But do you think they were speaking literally, or were they speaking figuratively?
No, I think they were kind of thinking about it. I mean, they were high as kites, of course.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, it was like a couple of crazed methamphetamine guys having a weekend in Paris.
Because that's the thing with Crowley. supporters are always, oh, he was speaking figuratively. He didn't literally mean this or that.
Yeah.
And then detractors are always, he said to do this and that.
Yeah. I mean, there is the evangelical Christians have him as the devil himself, and anybody that's vaguely associated with the occult is like, Satanists and baby eating and the things like I am a skeptic, and most conspiracy theories, I think everybody went through this when the sort of truther movement came out and 9/11 had just happened. It was like suddenly, and I think the rise of the internet fed into this as well, that we all could communicate with each other in chat rooms, and it was like, oh my God, the government are deceiving us, and there's chemtrails, and there's, everybody went one, and then I gradually had to bring myself back to sanity to think, okay, not everything is a huge Illuminati conspiracy.
Yeah, and I'm glad I had a firm foundation when 9/11 happened, when all of a sudden the floodgates on conspiracy theory already started flowing in. Like, I had already been working, I already had a strong background in chaos magic, brief period of Thelema, just enough to know what it's about, pretty much, and then quite a bit of history with the Ogdoadic and the Golden Dawn systems. So on one hand, and on the other, I was already familiar with like Bill Cooper and obviously Robert Anton Wilson, a lot of the conspiracy theory type stuff too. Well, Robert Anton Wilson's kind of in the middle there, but.
Okay, I'm getting into trouble from chat for ignoring questions, which I asked for in caps. So I'll just go back a little bit. Jacob Bacchus, is there one solid thing you could say to have gained or obtained from working with the 72?
A solid thing? I wouldn't say a solid thing. It's more the whole, my life, and not just my life, but everything around me as well, seems to go more on the right track these days. Like, it's headed to where it's supposed to, and it's like I'm way more getting to where I accomplishing the goals that I incarnated in this form to do, whatever they may be. Because
in a thalamic sense, I think you can say it's like finding your true will. It's like I said, when I started the Golden Dawn, it was like you're pulled off that wrong track you were in and guided more, and it sort of pushes you into where that you do meet the right person, as I have recently. Sort of Stardust, I love you. And you'll find the right job, you'll find the right flat. And if you're not in these places, it'll just rip it away from you, Lightning Struck Tower again.
Exactly. It's like I said, I was with the wrong woman, working a factory job at the time, and then started working with them. Real quickly, that relationship ended. I met a new woman who lives in Bulgaria, of all places. So,
wow,
the process of moving to a completely different part of the world. There's lots of cool stuff in Bulgaria too, which maybe I'll come back on sometime. We can talk about that too, because there's some interesting stuff.
Well, we've still got enough time. You can go on to that now if you like.
Well, sure. Bulgaria is they're finding all kinds of crazy stuff there, and you don't hear much about it because, like, archaeology in particular is one of those fields that advances one death at a time. You know, it's like 100 years ago, maybe a little longer, probably 150 years ago. Egypt was the beginning of all civilization. That was the oldest they knew about. And then they found the Sumerians. And that was the beginning of everything. Everything goes back to Sumeria, right? Well, but obviously it doesn't because they're finding stuff in Turkey, and this is a lot more less well known. The stuff they're finding on the Balkan Peninsula in Bulgaria, Romania, Bosnia. But a lot of you are probably somewhat familiar with the Bosnian pyramids, Pyramid of the Sun there, that they said, oh no, that's just a mountain, that's just a mountain. And they found tunnels under it. Figured out, no, somebody built this. In Bulgaria, well, one of my favorite ones because it's the called Perpericon. Now, Wikipedia will say it goes back to about 6,000 or 7,000 BC. But what they don't say is this happens all the time in Bulgaria. There's so much history there that anytime they build anything, they dig up some ancient ruins or artifacts, and so then they have to stop building whatever they're building to because the antiquities department will come in and, oh, we got to research this and find all this stuff. And then, so they'll find like maybe Roman era stuff. And they won't let them dig underneath it because they don't want to mess up that stuff to find out how deep, how much earlier it goes, you know. But what's Bulgaria now for the most part, and parts of Serbia, Macedonia, parts of Romania, was the Thracians. And even the Greeks said that they learned the mysteries. For some reason, I always think that the Greeks learned the mysteries from the Egyptians. But before they even sailed across the Mediterranean and met the Egyptians, they already had the Greek mystery, the Eleusinian and the Dionysian, and the Orphic came a little later. But all of those, the Greeks said that they got directly from the Thracians.
Yeah, the Thracians, yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. And so Perpericon is it's an old city, and then there's the Temple of the Sun god there, where there was always the legend of the hidden temple of Dionysus, the hidden ancient temple of Dionysus. It goes back into the mists of antiquity, where it was supposed to be one of the sources of the mysteries. And that's probably at Perpericon. And to this day, on certain occasions, they'll do these, call it a fire dance, where it's kind of similar to how they do the fire walks in certain cultures where they walk on hot coals or whatever.
Yeah.
But they dance on them. And they've been doing those same rituals for probably 10,000 years at least at that. And they still do them today. It's pretty interesting. There's this one cave that I visited. And it was actually kind of interesting because I was just reading about Bulgarian history and started learning all this stuff. And so I started reading about this place called Magura Cave, where they have ancient rock art all over the walls and everything. And I'm like, wow, that place sounds really cool. And a lot of the stuff is written by non-native English speakers, so you're either reading in somebody who's a Bulgarian trying to write in English, so it's not very good English, or it's Google translated from Bulgarian, so it's not very good English.
Yeah, no, that's not very good at all.
Yeah, so it's hard to recommend a lot of sources, but because they're hard. For me, it got a lot easier because my wife's Bulgarian. English is like her sixth language. She speaks Bulgarian, and she spoke Russian, French, Greek, and German before she started learning English. So So I'm used to like, and I learned a bit of Bulgarian now enough to like get what they're trying to say when they say stuff. You know, like how their language is structured different than ours. So if they say something, I'm like, oh, okay, he's trying to say that. Well, it makes it easier to decipher. But then I totally went on a tangent there. But so Magura Cave. So I was reading about this Magura Cave, and this one Bulgarian guy was talking about how it had this ancient calendar, and it goes back to like deciphered this calendar out of it that talks about like goes back to the Younger Dryas and stuff, which archaeologists will say that the cave paintings are in 2500 BC. And I'm like, okay, wait, that doesn't make any sense. The Greeks were like building cities, like the Minoan Empire, come and gone in 2500 BC. And you're telling me that their neighbors were just figuring out how to paint on cave walls? Like,
yeah, that's.
And even archaeologists will tell you that, or mainstream archaeologists will put it that way, will tell you that the oldest metalworkers in the world were along the banks of the Danube River, which is that area, the Danube, or the end of it anyway, it flows into the Black Sea. It separates Romania and Bulgaria. And it's all in that northern part of Bulgaria that a lot of this stuff is being found. Although Perpericon is more in southern, or well, central, but southern from the rest of that stuff. But they even call it the Danubian culture because they don't want to call it the Thracians, because the Thracians are supposed to be barbarians, right? But the oldest metal ever worked is gold found on the Danube River, in a village called Gradisnica in Bulgaria, and in a village in Romania called Tartaria. They found what is almost blatantly writing. Now, they tried to say it was decorative. If you look at the Gradisnica tablets, you cannot say that's decorative. This is not very decorative at all. And so they were looking at them, and they were comparing it to Egyptian hieroglyphics, and they're like, wow, these are like archaic forms of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And so when they treated it that way, as in, okay, so this symbol on the Gradisnica tablet could have evolved into this Egyptian hieroglyph. So then they could decode it, and if they assumed that was true, and then once they decoded it, it made perfect sense, the writing. So I was like, okay, that's probably exactly what it says. And it's talking about the triune God, all kinds of stuff like that. So the triple form, the Godhead, and
that's kind of a Neoplatonist idea, isn't it? I think he was the first person to come up with the idea of a god, and then there must be an emanation from that, and then the third part kind of rounds it off.
Yeah, but he was an initiate of the Eleusinian Mysteries too.
Yeah,
which they said came from Thrace. So, but you weren't supposed to talk about it. So, and didn't he actually get in trouble for supposedly saying things that he was supposed to keep secret? Yeah.
Well, I know one man was prosecuted for. Now, this is where Terence McKenna comes in, because he's convinced that the Eleusinian Mysteries were mushrooms preserved in either alcohol or honey, and there was his point in proving this was that a Greek man of some, he must have been of some social standing, was charged with giving away the Eleusinian secret at a dinner party. So they're thinking, well, if it was this big religious rite, how could you kind of dish it out as a dinner party? So it sounds like he was dosing his guests with the secret recipe from the Eleusinian Mysteries. Yeah.
And I've actually read some stuff that one of the things from the Eleusinian Mysteries, instead of mushrooms, it was ergot.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Yeah,
which makes a lot of sense because they made it from the grain, but only particular kernels of the grain, which that's what ergot looks like, and then it had to be processed correctly. It makes perfect sense that it was some type of ergot extract or derivative.
Yeah,
but yeah, they were probably dosing his guests.
Yeah, but, I'm a great advocate for psilocybin because it certainly, in my addiction problems and stuff, it really helped that. I think it helps with mental health in general if you can. Only for countries that it's legal. Disclaimer. But and there's more and more research. I think they've opened it up to a certain amount of research now, and it's helping people with PTSD and like veterans, and I think it's a really marvelous thing that, and it opens up the magical world as well. The first experience, the magical experience I had was, to us kids in Scotland, they grow quite readily in Scotland, the Liberty Caps. And we would just eat them out of the ground. And I had a wonderful experience when I was about 14, where you just sense the energy of trees and, everything is alive, that animism sort of energy from everything. And it just totally changed my life in many ways.
Where I grew up in South Texas, we had a lot of the cubensis.
Oh, yeah.
We have very similar type thing where they would just grow out of all over the place, and we ate a lot of
them. Yeah, I think a lot of people got their start. Right, here is a question from the Black Tower. Jacob Bacchus, is your true will something you consciously work to do, or is that something you give thought to in your workings?
Well, you can't separate the notion of the true will from the knowledge and conversation of the higher guardian angel, because that's how you know what your true will is. And so those two ideas together, because they're kind of one whole anyway, is very similar to me to the Tao, in Taoism, where it's just the path you're supposed to walk. It's more, so the knowledge and conversation of your higher guardian angel, it's not like you sit there and are actually sitting there talking to I guess you could project it into that, but then it's just a projection. To me, it's more trusting my intuition and things of that nature, and being able to see where the road is going and adjust the path. I wouldn't say your true will is necessarily like a goal that, okay, I achieved my true will, the great work is over, I'm done. Like it's a continuous thing, that it's a path that
the great work's never over, is it really?
Yeah, you can tell when you're straying from the path. But the way I look at it is, I always like to say that we live in an imperfect universe, because the idea of perfection in this universe is irrational. It's like a perfect circle is based on pi. Pi is a completely irrational number. So you can't calculate it to perfection, so you can never perfectly calculate that perfect circle, the dimensions of it, what it should be, because of the irrational number. But so you can always be more perfect. You can be more perfect and less perfect, but you can never actually achieve absolute perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the great work is a work of many lifetimes, and we'll still never get there. You know, that the great work is apotheosis, isn't it? It's becoming a god of your own little universe, I guess.
Yeah, or becoming aware that you've always been God, or you're an aspect of God. So, well, no, none of us are there yet because we're still here. So,
yeah, absolutely. We're getting a lot of questions about. I know that the Shem Ham-Faresh angels are associated with the Psalms, but I couldn't pin it down to which angel goes with which Psalm. Could you? I'm not sure.
I always just use a reference to tell me which Psalm goes with which angel.
That would be my advice. Google it, guys. Google it.
Yeah. There is a way to figure it out, I'm sure, but I don't, it's not like in order or anything. But yeah, each one is associated with the Psalm, and I don't remember. I just use a reference.
So you've never worked with the 72 goetic demons?
No, not intentionally anyway.
No, because I think that's an interesting idea that every energy or idea contains its opposite. So if you're summoning an angel, you're also kind of summoning its complementary demon. Yeah. I think some people say no, they're separate, but I just the fact that there are 72, and
it does seem like it could be that like I said, the light, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Since there's 72 of each, it's real easy to at least compare the two to where, okay, yeah, each angel would have one of the goetic demons be the shadow of that light or whatever. Though how they would connect, which demon corresponds to which angel, I've actually looked into that because it makes sense. That's the first thing you think of. Oh, 72 demons, 72 angels. Let's see how this fits together. I've never seen anybody successfully map it to where, because so if you look at what was the work of Pope Runyon did a lot of this. He's an interesting character for sure, but
yeah,
but he did the thing where it was the Armadale, and you invoke the angels of the Armadale, and they're supposed to give you the strength to be able to overpower or keep the goetic demons in control, which is kind of the same idea as the Abramelin working, where you spend the first part to invoke your guardian angel, so then you summon the demons one by one so you can defeat them. So it's kind of a similar concept, but it makes sense. But then you'd have to figure out which angel goes with which demon, and I don't know enough about the Goetia to map that myself, and I've never seen somebody successfully doing it that made sense. So, not saying it can't be done, but if anybody's ever done it, then they didn't tell anybody about it. So.
Yeah, I used to always wonder why Christian magicians would be summoning demons in the first place, like the 4 crown princes of hell and all that. And then I came up with the idea when I was working on there is no such thing as a supernatural. Everything is psychological because it comes from inside us. There's nothing outside us. There's no God. There's no spirits. It's all just us. So I thought, the idea of summoning these demons is to overcome the darkest aspects of our own psyches, and then that would make sense. And it does make sense. Like I say, it's half psychological, half what's the opposite of psychological? It's half out there, half in there.
Yeah.
But
external.
But everybody I've spoke to that has come in contact with angels or demons says no, that the stuff that comes through them could never have come from me. You know, they're a completely different life
It
form.
definitely has is more than just me. Like some of that stuff, I'm like, no, that didn't come from me.
Yeah. Even when I was channeling, there was stuff, you know, I mean, you'd never be able to, you know, I just used to kind of meditate, close my eyes, and then just talk these long kind of poetic passages. And when I'd read them back, I would be able to say, oh, yeah. And then I would get little clues and names of texts that I'd never read. So I think you are tapping into something, although it was in a very uncontrolled way. And then when I started studying like proper magic, if you like, I thought, oh my God, what was I doing? That was kind of dangerous. But if you open yourself up, things definitely come in.
Yeah. And even with the back when I was working a lot with theurgy of the different pagan pantheons and stuff, when I went into it, I was thinking more of a Jungian type thing, you know what I mean? Where it's okay, so I'm learning about this archetype. So, but then, no, there was definitely more to it than that.
Yeah.
The psychological aspect definitely does have a. There's definitely a lot to that, and I think it's beneficial for people at first to think that, you know, because it kept me from dismissing it out of hand, being like, oh, that's ridiculous. I wanted to try. I'm like, oh, it's a psychological thing. You know what I mean? Learning some psychology and learning about myself, right? Know thyself. That's good stuff. And
I think it makes it less scary as well if you think it's all within you.
Yeah.
If it's all within you, nothing can come and possess you and make your head spin around and projectile green vomit all over your bedroom.
Oh, only whiskey can do that.
Yeah. So it's been pretty good. I am probably going to round up pretty soon. Have you got any last things that you want to chuck in, Jacob?
I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
I'll just put out some last questions for the guys.
Sure.
Thank you very much for coming, Jacob. I know it's been. I tend to do things just off the hoof, off the top of my head. So thank you very much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. Any last questions, chat? And I think I'm going to round up. I might even treat you to my beautiful flute composition. No, there'll be no after parties tonight, guys, because I've got my. Oh, I'll just let the people who are my solid chat group. I've started a course. It's all to do with I'm trying to get into like being a drug counselor, or even there's counselors, there's coaches, recovery coaches, and because I've been through this sort of drug thing, I've started this course because I got fired from my job. So that's tomorrow. So hopefully that's going to lead to some interesting things. Yeah. Is everybody going to expand in the process after this? My good friend Davey. Thank you, Davey. He's got a channel as well, expanding the process. So it's really nice for you to come, Jacob. We're always trying to get new blood into the community. Davey hates that word. Into the fellowship of mages and phages and fools that we are. Drug coach, yeah. I coach people on how to take drugs safely.
I quit doing that a while back. But
yeah, me too. I even stopped smoking pot like about 2 months, even 3 months ago, and I really don't miss it. And I was an everyday smoker. I couldn't, especially with magic, art. I felt like I just couldn't think creatively without smoking loads of dope. And then as soon as I stopped, I think I've actually gained a bit of clarity.
That's That's how I was too. I was every day, all day, and like I was like, I don't know how I'd function without it. And then I stopped, and it was a little rough for a couple months or whatever. But then,
Yeah.
not even like a couple weeks maybe.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how did I function? Like, I didn't function.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't function.
Yeah. So, and like
And don't you think?
the psychedelics, I used to do tons of those, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it's like I don't need it anymore. It got me where it was going to, and
Yeah, I don't think I've given up on psychedelic quite yet. I think I'll maybe do one or two a year. I'm definitely planning to do a big one on the summer solstice, as is the sacrament of my own little weird religion. It's not religion. It's just the stuff that kind of carried through from the channel. And this, we started getting like, well, entities that said it was like Thoth at first, and then it became Thosis, and it's all. I talk about it in my solo stream sometimes, but I won't go into it now. So if that's all the questions, guys, it's been very beautiful. I might just play you out with my haunting tune. I can't play, by the way, but on this keyboard thing, I have kind of learned how to play a little tune. So will it work? Right.
And I've already been the after party stream on Davy's channel, so I'll see you guys there too.
Yeah, excellent. I just have to set up me. Oh no, it's not the clarinet. Maybe this was a really bad idea. Dead air. Right, where's my? No, you know what? I'm not even going to do it. I'll save it for another night because it's going to take too long. But okay, God bless everyone. Thank you so much. I'll just do the traditional. If everybody wants to say goodbye, and I'm sorry, there's always times that I miss people, so don't be offended. Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob Bacchus. I'm sure we'll have you back at some point.
I'm sure.
So,
I'm already in the after party on David's channel live stream. So if there's something you really wanted to ask, you can ask me there.
Okay, groovy. So thank you, Jacob Bacchus, and I'll just gong everyone out. Thank you, Jasmine Emmerich. Thank you, Patema Kundalini. Thank you, Davy. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Ethan Ross. Thank you, Effluent for You. Thank you, The Black Tower. Thank you, Name Policy. Thank you, Modwiz125. Thank you, Brandon Young. Oh, we're starting to get. Oh, that might be everyone. Oh, the Modern Hermeticist was in earlier, I noticed. If anybody knows his work, it's a massive honor that he was in here tonight because he's a serious genius. Enjoy Being. Oh, man, I love him. I think that's about everyone. Okay, thank you so much. It's been a lovely stream. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thank you for having me.
I'll see you in Expanding the Process for a minute.
For sure.
Okay, guys. Peace out, babies. Thank you so much. This has been the Saroth the Mage Experiment with Jacob Bacchus. Ta-ta for now. Peace out, everyone.